In the last 48 hours, I have stumbled across the world's deepest, darkest secret, to the point where I am actually legitimately feeling like this is the only thing that anybody should be talking about. And
Scientists have developed an invisibility cloak. It is a material that can camouflage items, basically make them invisible. So how does it work? What can it be used for?
Hey, before this plane take off, ain't none of y'all important, right? Ain't no millionaires, no billionaires, no like tech giants, no Bitcoin on the plane, right? Cause they crashing these motherfuckers. Y'all know that. Stop looking at me. She look important. Hey, give me a ticket to Spirit Airlines. I ain't doing this.
Historically, that's what many people have claimed, including British polymath John Aubrey. In the 1680s, he came up with a perfect recipe for invisibility. So, fellow invisibility seeker, all you have to do is acquire the severed head of a man, add exactly 7 black beans, pour over some brandy, and bury the severed head. 7 days later, pick out one of those sprouted beans, eat it, and voila, you're invisible. How exactly will you know? Hopefully, you'll feel magical and look see-through, or you can punch someone you hate and let the repercussions give you an answer. But if you don't have 7 days to wait and don't hate yourself completely, Chinese scientists just might have a solution. Yes, anything that comes from a Chinese lab can stir some doubts. But according to a study, researchers have hacked invisibility. They've developed a material that can camouflage. It can blend into the environment. This technology can be applied to clothing, containers, films, and even spray coatings. So how exactly does it work? The material can change its color at a molecular level. This will blend whatever is underneath into its environment, by proxy making the object or person invisible. In nature, the chameleon and octopus rely on this method to camouflage. This material will perform a similar extravaganza of obscurity. Scientists are excited about its potential applications.
This is Casey Anthony. At one point in time, she was the #1 suspect for the murder of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. Casey had Kaylee at 19 years old in Orlando, Florida, but she says that she doesn't know who the father was because the pregnancy was a result of SA at a party while she was unconscious. So she raised Kaylee as a single mother while she lived with her parents, George and Cindy. But one day, Kaylee went missing. She was last seen alive June 16th, 2008. But here's where things get twisted.
From stealth military technology to fashion and architecture design. Sure, these are fascinating potential uses, but what's even better, it gives superhero wannabes some much-needed hope. Invisibility looms large in the kingdom of childhood fantasy. It rarely gets adult scrutiny, yet it's among the top 5 most desired superpowers and has captured human fascination for thousands of years. Around the 1st century, the Greek wrote about the god of the underworld, Hades, and his cap of invisibility. This became fodder for modern writers, like The Invisible Man, published in 1897, the grim tale of a scientist who becomes invisible and is beaten to death. Then came a string of books and movies, with cool gadgets, of course. The Lord of the Rings in the 1950s, with the Invisibility Ring, Mr. India's Invisibility Watch in 1987, Harry Potter's Invisibility Cloak a decade later, and the Bond Aston Martin that turns invisible in 2002. Because after gods, ghosts, demons, superheroes, x-rays, and dark matter, how could James Bond not tap into all the things we can't see and imagine? The question is, why do we expend so much imagination in trying to join them? And what would we do if we could? The options are endless, at least according to Know-It-All Reddit. If invisible, one user wants to start a cult. Another user wants to steal people's keys and misplace them. And another user wants to make someone believe that they have telekinetic abilities which somehow stop working every time they try to show them to someone else. Visibly, some people just want to watch the world burn.
No one realized that Kaylee was missing because Casey never said anything. She never said anything to her parents. She didn't report her missing to the police. And anytime Casey was asked about it, she always had an excuse. She always said that she was with her, the nanny. Pay attention because this is going to come up later. This goes on for 30 days. Keep in mind, Kaylee is 2. And anyone who has had experience with a 2-year-old will tell you that you can't go 30 seconds without knowing their whereabouts, let alone 30 days. Meanwhile, during those 30 days, Casey was out living her best life. She was out spending a lot of time with her boyfriend, Tony. She was seen shopping. She was out partying. And I'm not talking about like once or twice. She was out clubbing. Keep in mind that this is all while her 2-year-old daughter is missing. She even goes and gets this tattoo. It says Bella Vita, which in Italian translates beautiful life, while her 2-year-old daughter is missing. One day, Cindy and George were alerted that their car had been impounded because Casey abandoned it in a parking lot. When they went to pick it up, they said that there was a strong odor to it, like decaying flesh, like a dead body. After this happens, Casey finally goes home. And it's now at this point that she finally tells her parents that she has not seen Kaylee in a month. And the reason she gave them was that the nanny had her and the nanny was refusing to give Kaylee back. Casey says that she refused to tell police because she was afraid that the nanny would hurt Kaylee if she did. So Cindy, a month later, calls police. Police do an investigation of both the nanny and Universal Studios Florida. They go to Universal Studios Florida to interview Casey's coworkers. And the police find out that not only had Casey been lying to them, but she had also not been to work in 2 years. She had also been lying to them, giving them false information and false leads. So they arrested her. It was at this point that this had become national news. Casey had become the most hated mother in the country. Meanwhile, a utility worker had been doing some work in a wooded area near the Anthony home. And in the woods, he discovers a bag with skeletal remains. And it was later confirmed that that was the remains of Kaylee Anthony. So now we have fuel on this crazy hot trial. It was already getting national attention.
You guys.
But
All right.
now,
So we got to ask it a very
let's get her
specific.
exact question.
All right, you ready?
Hey,
Wait,
ChatGPT, I have a question. So, you know how you're like the smartest
Should I say it word for
just
word?
say it word for word.
Okay. Hey, ChatGPT, I have a question. You know how you're like the smartest computer in the world and you know all the information to ever exist? If you were a human, would you believe this universe was created or do you think it's a coincidence? I only want you to answer in one sentence and you can only pick one.
If I were a human, I would believe this universe was created.
Can you explain further in about 20 seconds or so?
I'd say that the universe's complexity, order, and fine-tuning, like the precise conditions needed for life, suggest intentional design rather than random chance. The existence of moral values, consciousness, and the origins of the universe itself also seem to point toward a purposeful creator rather than a mere coincidence.
So what would you tell someone that does not believe there is a creator, even though it seems as all the evidence points towards one?
I'd suggest considering that belief in a creator isn't just about evidence. It's also shaped by personal experiences, worldview, and openness to the possibility. I'd encourage them to explore the fine-tuning of the universe, the origins of life and consciousness, and the moral framework we experience, asking whether these aspects might point to something greater than mere chance. I'd invite them to stay curious, and open to discussions that go beyond just science or philosophy.
I have a question for you. Now, if you had to choose one world religion, which one is most probable to point to the actual creator?
Centers on the concept of a personal, loving creator who reveals himself through Jesus Christ, addressing both the human condition and providing a path for redemption.
Yeah. Thank you. It was great having you on. Wow. That's, you know, they got to reprogram the ChatGPT because all the evangelicals start claiming that there was demons in it, you know? So they're like, you know, we'll give them this one. It is the most probable scenario. Wow.
but now it's like an O.J. Simpson level shit show. Keep in mind that this is like the early days of social media. So this is when memes started to appear. People didn't even know what memes were. People didn't even know how to pronounce memes. We weren't sure if it was a meme or a meme or a mimi. This was the first trial that was streamed on Twitter. So you can just imagine the outrage and the attention. 40 million people tuned into the trial. Casey was already the most hated mother in the country. Prosecutors started showing picture after picture of her partying and clubbing, receipts of her going on shopping sprees, evidence of her and Tony spending lots of time together, the tattoo, and all of the witnesses who were asking about Kaylee's whereabouts during the 30 days. So then the defense comes in, and not only do they say that Kaylee died in the family pool, but they also say that George was the one that hid Kaylee's body. They also went on to say that George was abusive towards Casey growing up. All of this was proven to be false. But despite all of the evidence, the pictures, the car, the duct tape, the lies, Casey Anthony was found not guilty. People were outraged. There was then a push for a law in Kaylee's name, making it illegal to not report your children when they're missing. And Casey ends up going to jail for a short period of time for lying to police. But she only goes to jail for about 10 days because she had time served while she was waiting trial. Fast forward to 2025, Casey Anthony is now on social media as a law advocate. She says that she's a legal advocate, a researcher, and has been in the legal field since 2011. She says that she wants to use this platform that was thrust upon her, and she now sees it as a blessing as opposed to the curse that it's been since 2008.
And yet, from what I can see, nobody is. 3 months ago, I created this TikTok account. I made it to talk about AI because I was working on AI at my job and found the topic interesting, liked talking about it with friends, and wanted to start making content. That's pretty much it. To make sure I have enough stuff to talk about in these videos, I'll sometimes read research papers. This weekend, I read a research paper called Situational Awareness by Leopold Aschenbrenner. Aschenbrenner worked on the super alignment team at OpenAI, and if you've never heard of super alignment, you are absolutely not alone. Paper essentially outlines how, with almost 100% certainty, in the next 10 years, likely before the year 2030, at the current pace of AI advancements, we are going to create a super intelligence that is so far beyond what we can possibly understand or comprehend as humans that it will be completely outside of the realm of us to be able to control. I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a sci-fi movie, except it's not, because this one is actually very, very real and it's based in science. The word for this is artificial superintelligence, not artificial general intelligence. AGI is great. ASI, super spooky. So for that reason, I'm going to be starting a series on this page. The next several videos that I post are all going to be about explaining this topic of ASI in a non-pretentious, non-patronizing way. How do we know for sure that it's coming? Why do experts believe that it'll be here before my 35th birthday? What will it look like when it's here? And what the are we supposed to do about it? If you feel compelled to be a part of this journey as well, hit follow and let's go on it together.